Hi, I'm Walker&Williams, and today I'm going to be talking about HBAR proxy staking, what it is, how you can earn free HBAR from it, and I'm going to be explaining very basically what it is and how it works and why Hedera Hashgraph are going to be paying you HBARs shortly if you want them to. And then I'm going to go into it in a little bit more detail. So if you just want to understand the very basics of what it is and how you can get involved, we'll do that. Then we're going to go into it in a little bit more detailed. This is super simple, really simple. This is a little less simple, but I'm going to explain it as best I can. Now, even this one isn't explaining it fully, and it's not really what I'm about. I just need to know the basics and understand the concept, and I hope you're the same. If you want to go into it in far more detailed and you want to go cross-eyed, there's loads of videos on YouTube's about HBAR proxy staking. Just search it and you can find them. And there's some that are 2.5 hours long. And you know, if you're looking to go to sleep, then by all means. And then at the end, I'm going to be doing other news. Now, I'd strongly suggest if you own some HBAR or you're considering getting into HBAR, I strongly suggest you watch until the end. And that's not clickbait, it's genuine. There's some really exciting news. You don't have to trawl all over the internet. I've done it all for you. I've condensed it all down, taken the bits that really matter and mean something to us as investors, and listed them there for you. Some really interesting and exciting stuff coming up. So, what is HBAR proxy staking? HBAR proxy staking is effectively you lending your HBAR coins to Hedera Hashgraph for them to proxy stake with nodes. I'll come back to that in a second, but most people believe that when you send money, believe it or not, these green blobs are people. That's me, that's Billy. I'm sending 4 HBAR coins to Billy. Most people believe that the transaction happens like that, direct from source to recipient. It's not actually how it works. Max puts 4 HBAR into a pot of HBARs, a big slush fund of HBAR, and then Billy is allowed to take 4 out. So I have sent it in as much as that I've got 4 less and he's got 4 more, but actually it goes into this pot. There's a few different reasons for that. One of the good ones being that it's completely private. So not even Hedera Hashgraph know where Billy's HBAR have come from. They just know he's allowed to take 4 out of the pool. So if you imagine there's 100,000 people stood around this giant pot. The pot is full of HBAR coins. You pour 4 into the pot, and then Billy's allowed to pull 4 random ones out of the pot. So the ones he pulls out aren't actually your ones. So you drop your ones in, he pulls 4 out, and it all equals out. Now, to have this slush fund to allow this to happen, because it isn't just Billy and I transacting, you know, as I'll get to in a minute, HBAR are doing 1 billion transactions. So if you imagine there's 500 million people stood around one side of the pool, 500 million people stood around the other side of the pool, if all the transactions were happening at once, and that means you've got 500 million people pouring however many HBAR from 1 to 1 million HBAR, whatever, into the pool. And you've got all these people collect them, but nobody knows where they've come from, which keeps it private. So there's you. I'm sure you don't look like that, but there's a representation of you, and there's Sally, and then Bob and Steve, and all these people basically lend their HBAR coins to the pot as a slush fund to make sure that the system is quick and reliable. So you've got this giant pool, this giant pot of money here. Max puts 4 in, Billy takes 4 out. But so that Billy doesn't have to wait and there's no delay, there's already plenty of surplus HBAR coins in the bag, in the pot. They've been lent to the pot by you, by Sally, by Bob, by Steve, by Max, whatever. So we've all lent our HBAR as a slush fund. And it just keeps the pot, the swimming pool, whatever analogy you want to use, it just keeps it full of coins so that people can dip in and dip out. And every time we transact, HBAR charges us a fee. It's a very small fee, but that fee goes towards paying the people, rewarding the people for lending the money to the pot. And that's it. So we can't do it yet, but very shortly, HBAR are going to announce that you can do this. And then if you've got 100,000 HBAR coins, you can put them in the pot, and then it can be used as a slush fund, like I say, for people to transact through that pot. And every time somebody transacts, a tiny percentage of that transaction fee goes to you. It's paid every 24 hours, and you can pull your coin back at any time. If you, let's say, for example, at midday on Monday, as long as you wait until midday on Tuesday, you get paid for that 24 hours. You can get paid once for that one day and then pull them all back, and that's it, and never deal with it again. If you pull your coins back midday, you do lose the 24 hours, but it's only a 24-hour holding period, and you can withdraw your money at any time. So let's say, for example, you were using HBAR as currency. You could have all your HBAR in the pot, and you want to buy something at the shops, it'll still transact. It just means for those coins that you've pulled back from lending them to the pot, get used to buy a Mars bar, you don't get paid for those because they're not in the pot anymore. But you can withdraw them at any moment at a second's notice, milliseconds notice, and as long as for any coins you've got in the pot, for 24 hours, you get paid for that. They haven't announced how much that payment's going to be yet, but I think it's going to be minuscule. But you may as well be earning something. And obviously it's relative, so it depends how many coins you have. The more coins you put into the pot, the more you get rewarded. HBAR have said it's absolutely guaranteed and backed by HBAR, so your money is not at risk. Now, nothing in the world is risk-free. We all know that. So what do I think the risk is? The risk is that if HBAR collapses, then you lose your money in the pool. But it wouldn't matter, because if they're in the pool or in your wallet, if HBAR collapses and is found to be a fraud or whatever, your HBAR is worth nothing anyway. So you may as well have it, whether it sits in your wallet or sits in the swimming pool, it's safe. It's with Hedera Hashgraph. I've really looked into that, and there really is, other than the risk I've just described, there is no risk to your money. So it's literally money with no risk. But very minuscule amount, depending on how many coins you have in the pool. A little bit more detailed version, just very quickly. So when you hear the word node, a node is just a computer. So it could be an iPhone, that's a Galaxy, believe it or not, that's an iPhone. You've got some laptops here. And when a transaction takes place, as I've explained in my other video, HBAR finally explained, voting takes place. And it isn't human beings voting, it's computers. So Max gave Billy 4 HBAR. Do we all agree? Yes, 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 yes. And all this voting takes place. In order to vote, you have to have a stake on the Hedera Hashgraph. To have a stake on the Hedera Hashgraph, you have to have HBAR. So these computers have to hold some HBAR. So if you lend your HBAR to Hedera Hashgraph, they use that on the node. So if you've got 4 HBAR coins, you lend them to this iPhone, which might be yours or this Galaxy or whatever, or somebody else's, because if you haven't got too many, you can pool them together with people through Hedera Hashgraph, and then they put all these HBAR coins with this computer, which means this computer has voting rights because it's got a stake on the Hashgraph, and then all these computers vote and constantly talk to each other on transactions. When the transaction takes place, at the moment, you are charged a fee of 0.0001 cent. So that fee is paid to the people, you and Sally, who've lent the coins to do the voting. So I'm saying the same thing as this. This is very basic. You want to transact swimming pool, liquidity, ease of use. This is that, but a little bit more detailed. So we have the node. So every time you hear node, just think computer. Computer's voting on transactions, but in order to have a vote, they've got to have a stake on the Hedera Hashgraph. To have a stake on the Hedera Hashgraph, they have to have HBAR. Where do they get the HBAR from? You lend it to them. Every time they vote on a transaction, the person completing that transaction gets charged a small fee. That fee is paid to you for voting on that transaction, to get consensus. So that's what it's for. So I've just put here, transaction occurs, all nodes vote, all nodes agree, transaction confirmed, fee paid, 0.0001 cent. So, and that's where you fit in. You fit in by lending the node the money to make it a node in the first place. Hope that makes sense. Leave any comments in the below if you want me to go into it in more detail. I could, I can really look into it and try and explain it in my style in a way that won't make you go cross-eyed. If that's something you're interested in, it's not something I'm really interested in. I understand the basics. I understand why it exists, and I understand why I'm giving my precious HBAR coins to Hedera Hashgraph. I understand why they need them. I understand how it works, and that's kind of as far as I need to take it. But I'm willing to do a video if it's of interest to you guys. Right. In other news, the Fed has announced it's assessing a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. So I don't know if I'm sure you've heard through osmosis, through just what the news, and even if you're not that interested in cryptocurrency, you will have heard that a lot of banks now, central banks, big banks, have started looking at turning their currency, the US dollar, the yen, whatever it may be, the euro, into a digital currency, a digital version of the currency we currently have. The Federal Reserve, which is the biggest because it's the world reserve country, and it's also the petrodollar, it's how petrol and fuel is valued, is in dollars, the US dollar, have announced They're currently assessing a central digital currency, a digital US dollar. And guess who they've been talking to? Yep, Hedera Hashgraph, HBAR. And of course they are. Why wouldn't they? Google, if you look at the governing council that I've been through before, Google, Boeing, IBM, they're all the big donators to the American government, all the big players, all the big taxpayers in America, all the big shots in America on the governing council of HBAR. So when the American government is considering going digital, who do you think they're going to phone first? It's going to be HBAR. Now, there's been nothing formally announced yet, but I would be amazed if the Fed didn't announce that they were joining the governing body of the Hedera Hashgraph, and that their digital dollar, the digital US dollar, is going to be backed by the Hedera Hashgraph with HBAR. So if that happens, you tell me what you think the price is going to happen. What's going to happen to the price of HBAR? I think it's going to go to the moon, could even go to Mars. Just amazing. You couldn't get any better, because the day that happens, the whole world finds out about HBAR. I know we talk about it a lot, and it's probably a lot on your mind, but everyone you walk past on the street, you stop and say, what's HBAR? I don't know what you're talking about, never heard of it. But you wait till the world hears about this. Really, really exciting. Shannon Bank joins council, so they're the largest bank in South Korea. South Korea, of course, famous for being the most digitally advanced country in the world, the most forward-looking and the most technologically advanced country in the world. The largest bank in South Korea has just joined the governing council of Hedera Hashgraph. So, I mean, it's one of the biggest tech geek ticks you could get is the seal of approval from the South Korean bank, the largest bank in South Korea. HBAR's just passed 1 billion completed transactions. It took 1 year, 6 months, and 28 days for Hedera Hashgraph to complete 1 billion transactions successfully. To put that in some context for you, because you're like, well, how many is Bitcoin doing? How many is Ethereum doing? To put that in context, Bitcoin is currently at about 700 million transactions. So Bitcoin's completed successfully just over 700 million transactions in circa 12 years. HBAR has just surpassed 1 billion completed transactions in 1 year, 6 months, 28 days, and that number's building quicker. So the first billion will take 1 year, 6 months, and 28 days. The second billion will take 8 months. The third billion until eventually we're doing, a billion a week or whatever. So it's 1 year, we've just surpassed, but the first ones, Hedera Hashgraph is the first cryptocurrency to surpass 1 billion completed transactions. And by the way, actually, I should have put this on the board. Hedera Hashgraph is now completing more transactions per day than all of the other cryptocurrencies put together. How amazing is that? Hedera Hashgraph is successfully completing more transactions a day than all of the other cryptocurrencies put together. Suku ecosystem. This isn't big news, but it's important news because this is a little glimpse for us into the future. Suku ecosystems moves from Ethereum to HBAR. So I don't know if you've ever heard of them, Suku ecosystems, but they're basically they're a really great company, and they make sure that they track products. So if you want to know if a pair of trainers have been made sustainably, you can track that through the Suku ecosystem. So, were children used, were sweatshops used, were the cows if they're real leather, were the cows dispatched humanely, was it an organic farm? They do it for food, clothes, all sorts of things, and they track the whole journey of the product from field, from factory, from wherever, to shelf, to in your hands. And they track that using, or they used to track that using Ethereum. However, as the company, because more and more companies are jumping on this because, and rightly so, particularly millennials and people coming through now are very, very eco-conscious, and that's a great thing. So this company is growing in size. Now, this was only a couple of days ago. Jonathan Lapchik, and this is a direct quote, "It's become clear to us that the cost of doing these transactions on Ethereum was prohibitively expensive at scale." And that is the key word. The charges for using Ethereum and transacting with Ethereum and for an event, and by the way, Ethereum is far cheaper than a lot of the others, including Bitcoin, far cheaper, is prohibitively expensive at scale. So they, as a business, they thought, we're growing. Once we start doing X number of transactions, it's just not going to work. We just can't scale. So they've looked around for a solution, probably never watched one of my videos, but they should have, ages ago, and then they wouldn't have had this problem so late. They've looked around for a solution, and guess what they've discovered? Guess what they found? HBAR. So what have they done? They've taken their whole business off Ethereum and given it to HBAR. This is going to happen more and more and more, and we're going to see this going into the future. Companies moving away and from all these other, what I call altcoins, Bitcoin's an altcoin, Ethereum's an altcoin in my opinion, all these other altcoins, they're going to move away because they've got no choice. And the worst thing is, if you happen to be invested in any of these other coins, is that the bigger they grow, so the bigger these companies like this grow, the more transactions are, the more they use it, the more expensive it gets. So it's only going to get worse at scale. It's going to get the bigger the problem, the bigger the problem. So as it grows, the problem gets bigger. With HBAR, you don't have any of that. So this is one of the first proper big companies to already be with a crypto and move from that one to another one because of the problems of cost at scale. And that's what I've been talking about all this time. So all these people are saying, Bitcoin's the future, Ethereum's the future, what about Ripple, no, because none of them work at scale. And that is why HBAR is the future.